Hey guys, welcome to the first podcast of the Dukebox. We're your hosts for today, Ananya.
And Matt.
So, firstly, I'd like to ask you, Matt, how have you been managing your well-being at home?
Well, I've been keeping myself entertained, I guess. At the start of the term, I made myself a little plan for what I would do each day. And I've been using that to manage my time. I can essentially finish my work on time and still keep myself, I guess, entertained. I've also been keeping in touch with my friends. I've been, I guess, calling them, just making sure that they're safe. That's how I've been managing my well-being. How about you?
So, for me, I think in this time, especially because before coronavirus, we were really busy as a family, because both of my parents, or because my dad, he can count in as a essential worker, but my mom, she is an essential worker, so it's been kind of hectic, but due to this quarantine period, we get weekends to ourselves where my dad and my mom are at home. So we've been going on long walks around our area, and even if they've been for a few hours, and we've been talking about things we didn't normally get to do, because this quarantine time has given us a chance to reflect on this time, and maybe even catch up on news beforehand that we missed, because this is my first year. Last year was my first year at the school, so it's been kind of hectic as well, trying to get used to it for a year. So, yeah, I mean, mainly just exploring the outdoors, going for walks with my family. I know you're part of a WIG club, writing interest group.
Yep.
So, is that what you normally do in your spare time to keep healthy and fit?
Yeah. So what I've been doing, so whenever I have a break, usually it'll be either just catching up on some YouTube or like doing some writing because so one of my hobbies is writing. So I kind of like use that as, I guess, like an outlet, a creative outlet for expressing my ideas and my feelings.
How important do you think socializing with your friends during this time is, and keeping up to date and communicating with your family regularly, because it's quite easy to go in your shell, isn't it, during this time?
Yes, definitely. I find myself in that situation a lot of the time, especially in this time where we can't see them physically. We can't see our relatives or our friends physically. I guess, being able to contact them can put us at ease that they're doing fine.
Just quickly adding on to that, just because my family as well, like a lot of possibly students from MHS, are living overseas. So, and they're living in India at the moment. So, which is quite, recently the cases have increased a lot because of
Yep.
because obviously you have the people who aren't following the restrictions, or it's just such a big population. So just they're all fine. Just keeping in touch with them and asking how they are. I think it's good for them as well, and it's good for me. Like when I go to sleep or when I'm working, I at least know that my family's doing okay at the moment. So just taking it one day at a time,
Yep.
I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in any need of any help, and we're talking to the audience here, if you're in need of any help from the school wellbeing team, you feel welcome to email Miss Mill, Miss Morton, or Miss Delahunty, or your form teacher, to help, to ask for their help, or if maybe you just need I guess, a comforting voice to hear. This week we spoke to the school nurse, Miss Delahunty, about how to manage our time and ourselves in a healthy way.
So, Ms. Delahunty, what are some ways to manage the stress of being in an enclosed learning environment?
That's a really good question. So, something that I always talk about is making sure that you only sort of think about the things that you can actually control. So, an example of that is with your studies, for example, looking at your compass timetable, following your timetable or a timetable that you've set for yourself, getting up at the same time you would on a regular school day. It gives you some structure during the day, and following that structure throughout the day. So getting up at the same time, having breakfast at the same time, following your scheduled classes, making sure you include in there your recess and your lunch because your breaks are just as important. Those sorts of things you can actually control. There's lots of outside factors that we can't control, but doing that is really important. Making sure that we continue with our physical activity. I know it's limited during the COVID-19 restrictions, but we still can get out and exercise, and that's really good for our mental health and well-being. We also need to be mindful of our family members. So making sure that when we create our space for learning, that it's good for us, making sure that it's we find it enjoyable to sit in that place to do our learning. We don't want it to be looking sort of dull and boring, or sometimes I find having some music playing low is just something in the background is quite good. And also allowing a bit of a grace period with remote learning. This is all new to everybody, and we will make some mistakes with it, and it's okay to do that. If you miss a class with remote learning, let your teacher know that you accidentally missed it or you missed something. If you communicate with your teachers and let them know that that's happened, that's fine. I think we're all new to it. We're all worried about it, but we can relieve that stress by just making sure we maintain communication with everybody.
Communication's key.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. How can physical activity help improve our mental well-being?
Okay, so regular activity has a profoundly positive effect on conditions such as depression and anxiety. It increases relieves stress, increases our positive mood, helps with sleep, and it just makes us feel good. So through the restrictions of our stage 3 restrictions with COVID-19, one of the reasons you are allowed to leave your house is for exercise. And I would strongly recommend that if you can leave your house, that you do go out for a walk or a run. So whether it might be walking the dog or something like that, get out and enjoy the fresh air or each day for about 30 minutes if you can do that, because it's just going to, I know for me, getting out in the fresh air makes me feel a lot better. It clears your head from all the things that you've been doing during the day. And as I said, it helps with sleeping at night time too, which is when we consolidate all the learning that we've done throughout the day as well. So big benefit there. So if we're waking up at the same time each day when we normally would, and going to bed at the same time we normally would when we're at school, trying to do that while we're at home will actually help us. I have spoken to a few students that their schedules are really out of whack and not going to bed until sort of well after midnight, and they're going to find it quite difficult, particularly when we get back to actually physically going to school. We really need to try and keep our regular sleep schedules as well.
Thank you. Would you say masks are appropriate? And if they're not, what are some ways to minimize the risk of coronavirus around our local area?
All right. So my auntie has actually made some masks for me, and I wanted to demonstrate to you about masks and why they're not particularly great. So I'm just going to pop this on and show you. All right. So you'll be able to see here, there's a gap.
Yeah.
Around here, there's no seal.
Right.
All right. I'll take it off so you can hear me properly. There's no seal around the nose and the mouth, which means that all the particles of any virus, as well as COVID-19, can actually come through the edges. So if you are going to wear a mask, you need to actually have a mask that actually closes all those gaps around the nose and the mouth. They're not recommended.
Right.
So really, you only want to have a mask on if you are a healthcare worker, or if you do have COVID-19 and you are needing medical treatment and you go to the doctor for assistance. What we're seeing is that many people are wearing masks, and quite often they are quite flimsy masks, and the material the bacteria and the germs can actually permeate through the thin material of the mask, and people are wearing them for multiple days at a time. What happens then is the person that's wearing them, all their germs will stay in that mask area, and then they throw it away in a regular rubbish bin. Where do all the germs go? They then disseminated out into the atmosphere for anybody else to pick up. In a hospital environment, those masks are actually discarded in a clinical waste bin and then destroyed. So destroyed effectively, whereas that's not the case in our community. So my recommendation is for you not to wear masks. They're not necessary unless you are sick.
Right.
Okay. So the second part of the question is how you can protect yourself from COVID-19. So there's two really important ways there. One is through good respiratory hygiene. So if you are going to cough or sneeze into your elbow, to do that. If you do cough into your hand or sneeze into your hand, make sure that you wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. And it's also really important that you dry your hands particularly well as well, okay? Sanitizer can be used too. I'm a bit of an old-fashioned nurse, and soap and water is my preferred method.
Yeah.
The other thing is, again, it comes back to good hand hygiene. So we want to make sure that we're washing our hands before food preparation, after we've been to the bathroom, if we've emptied the rubbish bins, for example, and I'm sure your parents have got you doing extra jobs with being at home, so making sure that we do that. And we want to try and avoid touching our face if we can. If we do touch our face, wash your hands after that too. So they're the best ways in which we can avoid. Look, it's through transmission, COVID-19, so through droplets, but these are the things we can do to try and help prevent the spread of it through good hand hygiene and good respiratory hygiene.
Thank you so much for that.
No problem.
What is your main message to MHS students who are uncertain about how to manage their concerns?
Okay, so there's an abundance of information out there about COVID-19, and my advice is don't go looking for information. There are some reputable sites available, and I would be looking at the Department of Health Victoria, the Commonwealth Department of Health. One of the apps, there's two apps that I've actually downloaded, and the first one is the Australian Government Coronavirus COVID-19 app. That app provides you with every update that's available, with every bit of information that you need to know. It provides you with symptoms, of COVID-19, all the things that you need to look out for. So that app is one I would recommend for students to download because it's got everything that you need to know and you don't need to go looking sort of everywhere and anywhere for the information. The second app that I would probably recommend is the new one that the government released on Sunday evening, which is the COVID-19 app, the COVID Safe app. That app is about contact tracing. So that's when we are out and about in the community for shopping, exercise, etc. If we do end up with COVID-19, that it's easier for us to trace where we've been and who we may have been in contact with. So I think that's also an important app to have. So, but the first one, the coronavirus app, I think is really beneficial, and that will give you all the information that you need.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of misinformation and rumors and other sorts. I think it's really important for us to stay, well informed of the situation, and I think that app will definitely help us students.
Yeah, look, I think if you are going, if you're going looking for information, you might find the wrong information, and that can cause stress and worry. If you have all the information in one place, and that information is provided by our Chief Health Officer, Professor Brendan Murphy, and every expert available to the Australian government, which I've got the app, and I think it's a great app to have. Yeah.
What is the best way to support each other when we're far apart?
That's a really good question. And I know for me, I'm missing all the connections that I have through staff and students coming through my health centre. One of the things that I have started doing, and I will continue to do, is I had sent emails to some of my colleagues just to say, hi, I'm still here.
Yeah.
If you need me, if you want to have a chat, we can do that. I have had some virtual coffees with some of my colleagues, which has been really beneficial for not only them, but for me as well. And that's just taken 15 minutes out of our days just to sort of touch base with each other and say hi. With the students, I think it's really worthwhile connecting with your friends, whether that be through a phone call, a text message, or even through MHS Teams, and having a discussion through video chat like what we are now, just to say hi, how are you going? What's going on in your world?
Yeah.
And you don't even have to talk about school. You can just talk about the latest video game you've been playing, or a book you're reading, or how are you going with your musical instrument. Whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. Just to have that connection, I think, is extremely important to keep that connection going. Some people might not want to take it up, and that's okay, but the next person that you ask might just want to take it up. And I think it's really important to stay connected that way. Social media is a great way to do that. But I encourage you all to do that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Delahunty, for your time and your advice. It's much appreciated.
Our questions for you guys is, how do you manage your mental well-being in these times?
Do you have any advice you can give to others? Keep a lookout for these questions on our Instagram stories. We're looking forward to hearing from you all.
Thanks for listening.
And tune in next week for our next podcast.